get a lot of questions from students where they're asking about the kick and bass relationship in released tunes that they hear. So I've got a little way that you can actually do some analysis here. If you've got yourselves Wavelab 7, which has got a fantastic suite of analysis tools on it. So this has recently come out. It's a Steinberg product, and they've also brought it over for Mac now, whereas before it was a PC only application. I'm using an example here. It's this one here, the David Penn and Robert Gaez, and this is a defected release. I'm only using half a bar on here, so hopefully the guys are cool with that. If you like the sound of it, please go and support the release. I'll put a link into the video. So we've got here half the bar with the beat and the bass line. Now you can see that we've got some analysis. We've got the spectral analyzer here, which is showing us the energy of the sound from 20 Hz to 20 kHz. We've also got a spectral analysis on the waveform here, so you can see the energy over time. Let's take a look at Sunshine People with just the beats. And also just the kick drum as well. Now the interesting thing about this particular kick drum is that it's quite short. It's going just over 200 milliseconds. So you can see if I move my cursor, we can get a precise amount that's down at the bottom right hand corner. And you can see that there is the initial punch of the kick followed by a tone, which is this sine wave type area here. If I zoom in, it looks very much like a sine wave. So it's almost got this tone is occurring slightly after that punch at the beginning. There's a very good loudness display graph, and you can see here that there is this loudness that occurs slightly after the initial transient at the beginning. And I'm going to show you something here which is going to give you a really detailed analysis of what's in this kick drum. I'm going to double click to select the waveform, and we're going to come up to analysis, and we're going to go to 3D frequency analysis. This brings up this window here, and it shows us time on the left hand side, so 0 milliseconds to 234 over here, and then 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz left to right on this axis. So that's what we can hear. We can actually also pick up this rotational control at the top to see around the waveform in 3D, so we get a really clear view about what's happening with that sound. So it's nice and clear visually as to what's going on. We can make some comparisons with some other sounds. So let's do the same thing with the beat. Okay, so I'm going to double click here. We're going to go to analysis, 3D frequency analysis. You can see, we've got half a bar, so that's 2 beats. You can see the 2 beats here. It's not as straightforward as just 2 beats, is it? There's something else going on there. Let's just rotate around and we'll see. So there are 2 kind of punches, but there's also something leading up into that. So let's have a listen to the audio. It's like a tom or something, isn't it? And the stab over here, you can actually get into some real fine detail here. I could even select, let's go to analysis, 3D frequency analysis. Look at that. The bulk of the energy on this hat is much higher in frequency. You can see that little bit of body over here as well. So some interesting ways to look at these sounds. Here's that sound that's just before that kick. Let's see what's going on with this. And there's a lot of energy here. You can see this. If we come back, let's select all of this. This is starting to make a bit more sense now. Let's turn it around. So you can see some of that percussive sound that we heard there appearing over here. So you can really start to get a feel for what's in these sounds. And if we focus on this beginning, this kick, I was saying about there being this kind of punchy element followed by a tone, we can have a look at the frequency content of these. There we go. It's not very bassy, is it? You can see that there's certainly no sub bass in there. And then we go on to the tone of the kick analysis, 3D frequency analysis. That's where the sub is. So it's this punchy attack and then this warm, low, subby tone afterwards. So that's what's happening with that kick. This is a really, really great tool for analysis, Wavelab. And, it's one of the only ones that gives you such detail And certainly I've not seen any other tools that do the 3D rotational frequency analysis, you know. So let's refresh our minds with this one, 3D frequency analysis of just the beats. Let's have a look at the section where that bass element is coming in. Now when I listen to that, I'm hearing the bass coming slightly after the kick and then also over here as well. So let's take a look at this in 3D. Let's rotate. Now, if you remember what we saw last time, and you can rewind on the video to check on this, we didn't have this blade over here, which very much looks like that's that bass note. So we can start to see what's going on in terms of the tone there. So let's have a listen again. Let's have a look over here. You can see some bass type texture. You know, whenever you see anything that looks remotely sine wavy, that's where you're going to be seeing some of the kind of bass notes. These real jagged waveforms are more the bright elements. And you can see a little bit of that in there as well. So let's just do an analysis of this one. There we go. So there's some tone in there, some low bass. And what about this element here? Just going to set this one up to play. Yeah, that's where that other bass note is, and the stab. Just see what's going on in this one. Okay, that's the clean stab. So anyway, you can see that these analysis tools can really help you to start to get to understand what some of these producers are doing that you would like to emulate. So one of the things to learn from this is that, you know, the kick itself, it doesn't have to be long. You know, if you're working with samples, then you could shorten the actual envelope. If you're working with synthesized drum sounds, then of course you can make it any length that you want in terms of generating the tone. But you know, this is going to give you some real insight into what some of those guys are doing. It's not going to give you 100% clear picture, but it's going to be a really good educational tool for you guys to start learning what some of the other producers are doing.